You are now entering the horror section.
Hello, welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay with Kellen and TJ, and today we're doing something we have never done on this show. We're not going to talk about one movie. We're talking about two. That's right. Two movies, one episode. 2025 is getting wild. Today, we're going to chat about two of my favorite movies, which were also movies that I put in the bucket when we did our bucket. 2024, if you see our background in my shirt, you can figure it out. 2024's Creep, starring Mark Duplass. And yep, you guessed it, our second movie is 2017's Creep 2. I absolutely love these films. Spoilers on that already. I love the series too. I think I'm the only one at this time who's watched the series. It's 6 episodes. They're about 30 minutes a piece. It's fantastic. You've already started it?
I've seen 3.
Nice. The first one's the best one, I think. But anyways, sorry. Watch the show. It's on Shudder. If you like these movies. If you don't like these movies, you probably don't care about the show. So, if you're unfamiliar with these films, in Creep, Aaron answers an online ad and drives to a stranger's house to film him for the day. The man wants to make a movie for his unborn child, but he requests become more and more bizarre as the days go by. This is why you should never answer weird Craigslist ads. This is a movie for that. But in the sequel, our killer's back at it. He's taken on the name of Aaron from the first film. But this time he's kind of lost his inspiration and wants to reveal his true self on camera in a documentary. Or does he?
Or does he indeed? This movie, Jay introduced to me several years ago. I was hanging out with him one day. We were at his house. I don't remember if we were waiting to go somewhere.
I think we were waiting to go to a concert.
Okay. And he was like, "Hey, have you seen Creep?" I was like, "Obviously not. That's a dumb question. Why would you even think that I've even heard of it?" He was like, "It's not long. It's an hour 17. I think the second one's an hour 20." He said, "Yeah, we'll watch it real quick." And on this show, my disdain for found footage movies. I'm just not a fan of the style. I'm not a fan of the ones that I've seen until Creep came along. And Creep is to the found footage genre like Duel is to suspense. It is perfect in its simplicity. Duel is basically one man throughout the 95% of that movie.
One amazing man.
But you're
talking about the 1970s Steven Spielberg made for TV movie, right?
Yeah, Steven Spielberg's first movie. Yeah.
Did I say Stephen King?
I said you may have Steven Spielberg. Yeah, right. It was his directorial debut. It's basically just this guy in a car being chased by a truck, a faceless man in a truck, all because of road rage, basically. But that movie's fantastic, and it has nothing in it. I mean, if you really break it down, it's a man in a car being chased by a tractor trailer for the duration. And that's what this movie is. This movie is Mark Duplass and Patrick Bryce, who also directed, and that's it. There's nobody else in this movie. You hear his wife, who was also in the league with him, but played a different man's wife in that show, Katie Aselton. You hear her voice on the phone as his wife, that we find out is his sister, and then we don't even know if maybe it really is his sister because we don't know what his real name is. I'm going to assume it was his sister. Anyway, not important. But it's just the two of them. It's Mark Duplass tricking this guy into becoming his next victim, and that's where this movie succeeds so well. It builds the suspense without feeling tedious, and that's hard to do. That's hard to do when your whole entire subject matter is a conversation, right? That's because what this whole movie is these back and forth conversations that become more and more unhinged. Bill, or whatever his name was in the beginning, he says his name's Bill when he's getting ready to prey on his next victim. But it's just him slowly becoming more and more unhinged. It's almost as if he's testing just how far I can push somebody and how trusting they can be. And every time he pushes them past what feels like their breaking point, he apologizes and brings them back in. It's like he's constantly pushing that line in the sand, and he does it in both movies and in the episodes of the TV shows I watched. And that's what he does. Is it's almost as if it's like a study in human behavior for him. He mentions in the second one that when he gets the guy and looks inside, it reveals the universe to him and how beautiful it is. And that's one of the things where you truly believe that that's what this guy is doing this for. Is it's ethereal to him. It's spiritual. But I think he enjoys the cat and mouse aspect, which is what builds the tension so much, because what's going to happen. He's the creep. That it's building to him killing this person that you're becoming invested in, and you see them do all the things that in your mind you want to say that you wouldn't do, right? You wouldn't stay. It would be a little weird. You would realize this is not a good situation. I'm going to get out. But they keep staying because he makes himself just vulnerable enough to tear down your own defenses. And that's what's so brilliant about Creep, and especially Creep 2. Creep I really enjoyed. Creep 2 is another tier. It's very rare that a sequel surpasses the original. The Godfather, Back to the Future 2, for me, I think is better than 1. And then Creep 2. Creep 2 is, they take the original premise, they give you the exact same thing, but they throw in the curveball of her being just, I don't even know if narcissistic is the right word. Just
narcissistic is the right word.
Just narcissistic enough to play along with him. And that's what we don't get in the first one. We get the guy who's a little unnerved. He drugs him at one point to try to escape. He does end up getting away, but then gets pulled back, and that iconic, that's what I'll call it, that iconic ending scene of the first one. And then they just topped it in the second one. They come back to that. He shows her that he's killed somebody, but you realize that, if I was put in that same situation, I'm not going to believe that he's showing me a video of him murdering somebody. It's far enough in the distance. You can't see, well, you just see the axe come down and him fall over. She's, even it mentions, I'm 90% sure that he's not a killer. Plot twist, obviously he is. So I just think it's so fantastic. And my favorite part, and it made me think of the Saw franchise and where they went after Jigsaw, dies, or right before he dies, when they start bringing in Protege or whatever. The ending of 2, when she's on the train and she hears the whistling, and you see her get that little smile on her face, and she's actually thinking back to that time, and there's definitely a soft spot for that, because she's probably not that far from him. Because if you look at her encounters videos that she was doing, it's the same thing that he's doing. She's just doing it for views. He's doing it for murder. So they kind of parallel in the way they identify with other people. Like, they're subjects. They're not, she even mentions that, like, she feels like she has this weird ability to bring things out in people. And that's what he does in both of the movies and the episodes of the TV show I've seen, is he brings out the parts of people that people probably, if gun to head, would not have said they would do, or the way that they are. It brings out parts of human nature that we like to think that we would be smarter than, but that desire to want to trust somebody, to believe somebody, to actually go above and beyond to try to prove to yourself or whoever that you're a good person, even at your own detriment. So Creep 1, Creep 2, absolutely love. Creep 2 took Creep 1 and brought it to a whole new level. Then you get to the series. Like I said, I've seen 3 episodes so far, and I wanted to point this out, and then I'll pass it on. That's one of the most brilliant things I have ever seen a series, or whatever you want to call it, do. And that's show you the other things. We see other killers in movies, and we see other things that happen. And there's always that moment, like, especially if it's like a prolific thing where we're kind of brought in later on, where like, oh, I wonder, like, Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, we get a little bit of that when they went, but if you just watch the Silence of the Lambs and hadn't watched anything else, you're thinking, what was Hannibal like? They go back and end up making those movies, but that's the kind of things that you get in horror films where you're like, I wonder what those were like. You see when they portray a serial killer, it's like, I wonder what the backstory would be. Here we get it. We get to see the tapes from the first movie that he talks about having in the second movie as well. And I thought that was such a brilliant way to do the series. Instead of trying to like continue on with his murders, we're going back and watching the tapes of some of his kills. We're getting to see the way he pulls people in, and it's repetitive. I mean, it's him kind of doing the same thing over and over again, but he takes on different characters each time. It's a cat and mouse game where he changes the type of cat that he is. It's almost as if in his mind he's trying to figure out new ways to do the same thing, which is also brilliant when you take into consideration the second movie. He's kind of having a midlife crisis as a killer. He kind of wants to say, I've kind of lost the love for this. And you can go back and then you watch the creep tapes and you see, okay, he did have an affinity for this. This was fun to him. The preying on people in the different ways. Like the second one, he pretends to be a downed parachutist. Like he and that he set that guy up to find that bird. That he's the one that made the post on the forum or whatever to get him out there. And it's just brilliantly done. Mark Duplass is fantastic in this role. He's so creepy but yet unalarming. He has a childlike characteristic, but also like a devious spirit that you can also see through his face. He's perfect for the role of creep.
I can't wait for you to finish. Text me when I think it's episode 5. It may be 6. I want you to text me directly after. You'll know which one I'm referring to. And you're right. That was one of my biggest things is the tapes. We get peeks behind, like Cabin in the Woods is a great example. They have all these different monsters. I want them to make a series with all those creatures because we wanted some of those creatures more than the ones that we actually got in the movie. So I knew they were going to I thought they were going to make a third one, but making it into a series, brilliant. Give me more, like feed me more. He's so great in that.
Yeah, and like I said, that's what's so brilliant about doing the tapes and doing them short is you take the bigger story out of it and you just get to where the actual tape where he's probably edited it down for his own consumption, and that's what we're seeing. And like I said, found footage movies never do it for me. This is a gem in a pit of pennies. It's like I said, I usually hate them. The camera work in this is not bothersome like it is in the Blair Witch Project, where it looks like they were on a tilt-a-whirl at some points. I can't say enough about this movie or this series, if you want to call it that. It's fantastic. But yeah, that's my take.
Did I miss something as to why you're wearing pink bunny ears?
If you watch it, he mentions when he puts on Peach Fuzz, he does this little thing. He says, "I'm just a cute little bunny."
Okay.
That was like one of the most uncomfortable parts for me when you did that little bunny.
Yes,
Okay. Yeah. I wasn't putting the 2 and 2 together.
Before I forget, last thing, and then you can take over, TJ. One of my favorite scenes is when he's staring through the door in the first one, and then he dives down when he realizes the guy's coming back. Like, that's absolutely something that somebody has done. Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, whatever, they have done that. They haven't been perfect. It's like, that I love that. I love the realism of that because that's something that 100% would happen if somebody was stalking somebody. Like, oh shit.
Right. And similar to Kellen, the found footage genre is one of my least favorite genres as a whole because there's a lot more stinkers than there are good ones. Probably the only horror genre or subgenre that I dislike more, I think a lot of us dislike, is the devil baby.
Yeah, that's my least favorite subgenre. Yeah. I think.
Yeah, I mean they're neck and neck for me, but because they're just similar, they're so repetitive. At least with the found footage genre, there are a handful of ones like these movies that dare to do something a little more unique, a little more different. I had heard about this film for several years and had a lot of good indie buzz before I finally got around to watching the first one. And then the second one, I didn't actually watch until last year. And I made the mistake because these films have basically perpetually lived on Netflix since they first come out. But I made the mistake of downloading it and watching it on a plane next to my daughter, the second one, right around the time that he's hanging dong and randomly. So that was awkward. But I also watched Midsommar with my daughter, so we have a we have a series of bad decisions in movie watching. But um, I think both Creep films are neck and neck equal to me, and Creep 2 is the rare sequel that's as good, if not possibly you could make an argument for being better. I know a lot of people think it is slightly better than the original. The reason I like the original, and I can't quite say the second one surpasses it for me, is because how many people have seen the 1993 drama classic with Michael Keaton and Nicole Kidman, My Life?
Negative.
Great film, man. It's one of the handful of movies that makes me cry every time because that film is the conceit of Creep 1 if it were done seriously and it wasn't a horror film. The reason I love Creep 1 so much is because uh, in My Life, the Michael Keaton film, he's dying of cancer, similar to what he's talking about in this film. And he wants to make tapes, recordings for his unborn son that's going to be growing up without a dad. And that's why it's called My Life. He makes a series of these recordings called My Life. This is how I teach you to ride a bike. This is how I teach you X, Y, and Z, birds and the bees, and just makes a series of recordings for his child that he's not going to be around for. Um, and it's such a sad but beautiful little hidden gem of the 90s. One of Michael Keaton's best performances. And I just love that movie so much that when I heard that basically the conceit of this first film was the same concept, only done obviously creepy and as a horror film. And then with Mark and Jay Duplass basically created this indie. They carved out their own niche in indie film, uh, and they called it the mumblecore uh, genre. Basically, is what it was called by critics and people after the fact. With a film in 2005 called The Puffy Chair, a good road movie. They take a puffy chair cross country to give to their dad or whatever. It's a very simple concept, but it's got a lot of the conceits of these mumblecore movies. Your Next is considered a mumblecore movie. A lot of these same, like Joe Swanberg, a lot of the same directors and actors are all acting and working on each other's films. It become this kind of little tight knit community. The reason they called it mumblecore was because in the early days they made them so cheap they didn't have good audio recording equipment, so it sounded like everybody was mumbling, and that just kind of took on a life of its own. But uh, the Duplass brothers and Mark, in terms of acting, was there from the beginning. This thing, and Mark is he's such a duplicitous and deceptively good actor because he can ride that line of childlike and innocent and nice guy next door, and then on a dime just flip to being the creepy, weird, I don't know about this guy. And that's it's the perfect balance for what you want in these films. Couldn't have cast it better. But this guy is such a good dramatic actor too. I love him in the current Apple TV series with Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston, The Morning Show, where he plays Jennifer Aniston's producer at this like NBC morning show type scenario, kind of like the Today Show. And he's excellent in that, like award worthy, excellent. And I'm glad that it's taken 20 years, but that actual Hollywood and mainstream are finally discovering the talents of Mark Duplass, because he's been a great actor for a long time, and he's finally getting his
Has anyone
props.
seen Safety Not Guaranteed with him and Aubrey Plaza?
I have. It's been a long time though.
Love that movie. That's another one that can make you cry, but it's very similar to Creep. It's the same style he puts in an ad. But anyways, watch. I think it's on Netflix, but fantastic movie. He's amazing in that too.
Yeah, yeah, and I've not seen a bad movie that he's been in. I like the idea of the progression of the sequels, and I haven't dived into the show yet. I will eventually, just probably binge it when I have the time. I think it's only 6 episodes, right? So like 6 hours, something like that.
Three and a half hours. They're only 30 something minutes long.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're
Well,
shorts, which is the way it should be. Like Killen, like kind of touched on, like it's the perfect length because all those tapes, they're not going to be that long. He's not going to toy with them. We don't have to have every aspect of it. So it was smart making it that short.
And I like the idea that he's rewatching his own like greatest hits. Like he's studying like his game footage to get better at what he's doing and appreciate what he's done. And he's like building a career as a serial killer. And he's got this in part two. It's kind of like mid-career, midlife crisis. Should I continue doing this? Should I not? And you don't know how sincere he is with it, or how much of that is actually just the ploy to fool the girl and going on this journey with him. That's that fine line that character is always gonna
They do dive into
ride.
the psyche a little bit in the series.
They do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely gonna watch the series then. I mean, I don't have a lot to say about this. I mean, both films are in my top 10 of best found footage films. Uh, Granted, it's not my favorite genre, but to get those spots, there's a lot of those I've watched that aren't good, and these are not those. Uh, so I don't think I can add much more to what Kellen said. What about you, Jay?
Well, Kellen and I kind of mirror one another because, like you said, I introduced him to this movie. I don't even remember how I came across it. It was probably because I liked The League and I wanted to see Mark Duplass, but I fell in love with it the first time I saw it. So I'm like, you got to watch this. You got to watch this, and told other people about it. I thought it was the perfect found footage movie until 2 came out. Two is winning that race for me after watching it again. First of all, how handsome is he with that long hair, like, and that beard? Like, he looked good in that one. But 2 did take it up a notch, and it was such like the protege aspect. I didn't notice the smile the first 2 or 3 times I watched it, but this time you kind of see that turn, and I don't know if it's so much that he wants her to be his protege, his squire, but he just has found someone that can compete with him in the games that he likes to play, right? So like he feels challenged, and I think that's why he toyed with her as long as he did. The thing about him too is, like, I love found footage, but like you said, there's a lot of terrible found footage, and there's a few great ones. But I do enjoy a good found footage. This is my top 5 found footage movies, both of them probably in my top 10 to 15 horror movies, period. I love them to death. And it's just because his acting and his portrayal of this character, and he's one person, but he's not. He portrays all these, even in the show, like each one's at least one different character. I think the first episode is the Dracula one. I absolutely love that. So I think in the beginning, he's always challenging these people and to see how far he can get. And I think she just kind of went toe to toe, and he appreciated that. It feels like a real thing, like we found on the dark web and we're watching. And I think he's said like that was his mission, is to make it feel real, because it makes you uneasy and uncomfortable. That's something that's hard for me to do, is to watch a film and really get that immersed in it, where I'm like, I'm not sitting there saying, okay, I know this is Mark Duplass. Like, I've seen The League. So it's hard to differentiate it and get those feelings. But at the same time, I did fall in love with it. Peach Fuzz is iconic. Iconic. and it's just such a small part. And in the first one, when you meet him, which is what you can see in my background and on Kellen's, I have him on my shirt. But in the second one, he's driving with it, and he's just trying to freak her out a little bit. I absolutely love that. It's so simple. It's just a mask. The rape story was probably the worst part of the first movie and the entire thing. It also shows you wherever you are, it doesn't matter. Cover your drinks, people. Cover your drinks. Like, oh, there's money, there's a check in your boot. And then you see that subtle movement that you knew he had either put some or switched the drinks. I love the text you guys earlier. I'm like, from here on out, whenever I take a bath, it will be called tubbies. Like that whole scene in the first one of him pretending to wash his unborn child. It's so weird, and he does it so well. They should call it red flags because there's so many red flags. The first guy was trying to get away, didn't work out for him. I love that scene that you mentioned, Kellen, where he's outside like looking, and then he hears him coming. He like dives down. You see him dive down because that would happen. You know, like it. That's what helps these feel so real. Like we touched on earlier, I liked in the end of one, he's going through his closet looking at all these different tapes, because that as soon as he does that, we're hooked, right? We're like, okay, how many times has he done this? What has he done? So I'm glad they continued with it. It took them a little bit of time, like 7 years between 2 and the series, but the series is well worth the watch. So on Rotten Tomatoes, I looked earlier, the first one's 91. This is critics 91, and the second one's 100. And I didn't pay attention to how many reviews, but that's kind of where I am too. Even watching it again today, both of them for the first time in forever, I fell in love with them all over again just because his portrayal of that character. I was always suspicious of Craigslist and things like that too, so that kind of hit home for me. Like, I never trust that. Like, even on Facebook, I'm like, I don't know, this seems like a scam, and it's probably not. So
I've had a lot of scammy kind of Facebook marketplace deals where both people were trying to come to my house and take advantage of things I was trying to sell and things that I had thought I was going to buy not being exactly what I thought I was buying. So
that's
Well,
crazy.
and talk about that. When he in the first one, the very end, when he tells the guy that he wants to meet him, there's a park bench. It's wide open. It's a public place, and you can see cars in the background. And what I thought the second time watching is we are so self-absorbed as a society. He absolutely could have got away with that in broad daylight, because I mean, you hear somebody in the background sawing logs with a chainsaw. Like, it's obvious there's somebody within earshot, but he absolutely could have got away with that because we're so obsessed with ourselves that you think, okay, this is a public place, I'll be fine. That doesn't mean anything.
Right. Yeah. And in the second one, you said she's a narcissist. She is totally a narcissist because she has a blog. It's not doing well, so she's trying to get those views. Like, that's why she keeps coming back. He gets naked in front of her. She reciprocates. He flips out, has a tantrum, sits in the hot tub, listens to one song on repeat all day, which we all do that, right? Like, put some Creed on when you had a bad day in the tubbies. And she gets behind them and consoles him. Like, she was trying to manipulate him just as much as he was trying to do her. So anyways, I think he liked that back and forth cat and mouse game that they played. But yeah, I mean, it's not much to tell. It's hour 17 and hour 20. They're basically the same plot with just little tweaks. But at the same time, I think I would consider this, I think it just came out on Blu-ray in a steelbook, because I've never been able to find, I have the DVD. I don't have 2 at all. But I would consider these a hidden gem, I think. Like, I feel everyone should watch these. And it's also one, even if you're a casual horror viewer, you can still watch this because it's a fun ride, you know, because you go into, okay, you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. But you got to know how you get there. And it's both of them were a fun little ride. But do we want to do the rankings individually, combined? How you want to do that?
let's do the individual ones.
Yeah, individual's good with me.
Man, I'm gonna have to make 2 videos for that one. So for number 1, after watching it again, I think I'm going to stick with 4.5. And for number 2, 5.
Wow.
Kellen.
I mean, again, I'm a jerk when it comes to rankings, but I'm gonna rate these based on the genre as a whole. The because it's its own separate nook in the horror community, the found footage, and it only got blown up with Paranormal Activity and Blair Witch Project. So taking that into consideration and how much I hate the genre, for me, one is a solid 3.5, and two is a 4. I even toyed with just going blowing the brain and being like a 4.25, but I didn't want to be that guy. But part two is just phenomenal. Both of them just absolutely carry this story down to the very end when we see the hole in the ground that's going to be one of their graves, and then we find out the plot twist, it ended up being neither, and now he's following her almost playfully. like he's not following her. I mean, he could have killed her at any point. Now he's infatuated with her, and that's something that he brought up in other things. Is you're obsessed with me. You're upset. Tables have turned, and I think it's such a good character development that it's for me too. Is just it's a 4.
Teach.
I mean, I will echo what you guys say. I do think technically part two is edges out as being technically a little bit better film, if only because the female character is a much stronger nemesis for him than the guy in the first one. However, my nostalgia for the My Life movie and how similar it is to the first one, only with the twist, kind of evens it out for me. So I give them both a 4.
Okay, I have to do the math now. So you gave them both a 4. So Creep 1, 4 overall score. Let's see.
4.5.
4.5. So yeah, I could do that in my head. So Creep 1, we gave it a 4. Creep 2, 4.5. I think that's fair. If you haven't seen these movies, go watch them. If you can't find them, message us. We'll tell you where to find them.
Creep 1 and 2 are on Netflix.
They've both been on Netflix forever too.
And they're both Blumhouse. We didn't even mention that. They're Blumhouse.
Oh, really?
So the first one, you don't really see the Blumhouse in the beginning, but the second one, they're like, we got to put our name in front this time. But they were.
And you can download them and you can watch them next to your daughter on the plane, and it'll be fine.
There you go. Creeps. All right. That's it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube to where you're listening to this podcast. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, join our group on Facebook, Amazon Music playlist. If you have it, go check that out as well. Signing off. I'm Jay with Kellen and TJ. And until next time,
keep it spooky.
All right, Kelly, you got time to do this, or you got to go?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. I'm just going to dump them all out.
How many are we drawing?
I'm take them out.
Oh, you're taking them out.
Yeah. Is that what
we're starting new with a new list?
Oh, we're starting.
That's why we sent our new 10.
Okay. Children shouldn't play with dead things. I say no.
I go.
I've never seen it, so
13 Ghost.
Keep it. It's one of my favorites.
The remake, not the 1960s.
Yeah, with Tony Shalhoub.
Remake. Misery.
Keep
I
it.
love Misery.
Yeah, it's phenomenal.
Deathgasm.
I've never seen it.
Keep it. That's
I was gonna say that.
It's such a good metal.
That's the Rock movie. Okay.
Yeah, Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight.
I love that movie.
You never seen it, Cullen?
No.
Oh,
keep it.
Yeah. I won't.
You're next, which we mentioned earlier.
Also a good one.
You're next, Barbara Crampton. I want you to watch that one.
Yeah.
The Monsters Rob Zombie version.
The Monsters. We can pass on that.
Yeah.
It's not horror.
It Follows.
Ooh.
It's fine. I'm good either way. It's a good movie, but it's not like groundbreaking.
Duel.
Yes. I just mentioned it.
I wonder who put that in there. Sinister.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
That's a good one.
Attack of the Killer Tomatoes.
I've never seen it.
Oh, yeah, that could be fun.
That was mine. Scare Me.
Don't
Never
know
seen
what
it.
that is.
Yeah, it's the girl from
I've
Homelander.
never seen fuck.
Homelander, the girl that
Oh.
you liked, that was hot, and she and this guy are in the house together, and they're just
Oh, she was in You're the Worst.
Yeah.
You're talking about her? Aya Cash?
yeah. I thought I made you watch that.
No idea.
I'm leaving it in there.
You're the Worst is one of the greatest TV shows of all time. You
The-
can fight me on that.
The Collector.
Yes.
I've still never seen it, even though I own it.
If we haven't seen it, we probably have to keep it unless it's just absurd.
The
Little
Collector and The Collection are two completely different.
Third one's
movies.
coming out.
Collector's amazing.
I own
Third
them
one's
both.
Shop, or it's coming out this year. Little
Never
Shop
watched
of Horrors.
Yeah.
The remake, right?
No, shut up.
Musical.
Oh, you're talking
Not
about
the
the one.
only one.
1960 original with Jack
No.
Nicholson.
No,
Arachnophobia.
you can throw that one away. I've never seen it, and I don't want
Oh, no,
to. I
that's
don't want
fun.
to ever see it.
That's fun.
I hate
Kellen might not
spiders.
watch
John
it.
Goodman.
Kellen might not watch
He's
it.
not going to watch. Well,
They're remaking it. I'm upset that they are. I fucking love that.
they've
movie.
been talking about remaking it for like 3 years.
Bone Tomahawk.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. That's
a good one.
fantastic. That's 4.5 stars.
Prince of,
Spoilers.
Prince of Darkness.
Don't know what that is.
I could go either way.
John Carpenter.
That's what-
Vampire.
Yeah.
The Battery. That's one of mine. That's an indie film.
I've heard you
It's
talk
two
about
guys
it.
that are stuck in a car during a zombie apocalypse, and the battery's dying.
I mean,
I'm fine with
sounds
it.
Interesting.
You want to keep Prince of Darkness? Do we say yeah or no to that one?
I could go either way.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, so I
It's
have
one of
no
my least favorite John Carpenter.
Yeah, mine too. Maximum Overdrive.
Oh
Yes.
yes, yes.
So we had
Cocaine
some
made
good
that
ones, didn't
movie.
we? Okay, this was mine because originally we were supposed to have movies that were supposed to suck too. We wanted to do that. Shark Side of the Moon.
Oh, I
What?
watched that. I almost put Sharknado in for the new bucket.
We'll pass on that one. Doom Asylum.
No, that sucks.
It's the hottest the girl from Sex and the City's ever been. The dark-haired one.
Oh yeah.
But that's
Charlotte.
the reason to watch it.
Yeah, she's got glasses. Critters.
I
Never
love
seen it.
Critters. You've
never seen Critters? Critters
There's
is
4
staying,
of
bro.
them.
Critters and Tremors. Those like my two very first horror movies. Slacks about the killer blue jeans.
I've wanted to see that.
Oh, I've never even heard about that.
It's actually kind of good.
That sounds nice.
The Prowler.
Oh, I love the Prowler.
Never seen it.
That's classic. Kellen, we'll keep that one.
Is that Vincent Price?
No, The Final Girls. That's
Oh,
that-
that's good.
fun.
Yeah,
That's
I like
fun.
that. That's a good one.
It's got the guy from
Workaholics.
the singing
Yeah.
thing with it.
Fade to Black.
Oh, that's a fun 80s movie.
That's one I think. Yeah, Kellen should watch that one. Green Room.
I've still never seen it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Freaked. I'm keeping that one in.
Yeah.
Alex Winter.
That's fun.
John
Oh
O'Reilly.
yeah, you told me to watch that, and I never got around to it.
Oh, you haven't seen that? That's a good.
Bet
that's
you
a
didn't
good
watch.
one with the Destroy All Neighbors.
Bet you didn't watch The Night Before either, did you?
No, not yet.
Fucking motherfucker.
I kept it.
Changeling, 1980.
Haven't seen that either.
Oh, that's a very good ghost film with George C. Scott. By
If
God,
if,
Patton.
if TJ goes, ooh, I'm just gonna leave it in the bucket.
Rommel, you magnificent son of a bitch! I read your book.
Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers, starring Linnea Quigley.
Never seen it.
You've never seen? We interviewed the girl about it.
We sure did.
I guess since we interviewed her, we don't have to do it. The Howling.
Oh,
I've
I
never seen
love
it.
The Howling. Oh, you gotta watch the original Howling. It's a Joe Dante movie. The guy that directed Gremlins did that 3 years before.
Buried Alive.
Never seen it.
I like it, but I could go either.
Is that Ryan Reynolds?
God.
No, that's Buried.
Okay.
No,
this
this is like
one's
a
mine.
1981 movie.
This one's mine. We're keeping it. It's a short, so it doesn't have to be a regular episode. But it's Incident at Lake County. It is the
Oh,
I've
that's
heard
the
of that.
alien found footage. I've seen that.
I've heard of that.
That's the one when we did our Weirdos episode that made me freak out at my.
Oh
grandma.
yeah. I know.
I
But
like
It's on
that.
that's
YouTube, isn't it?
that's a remake of a 1989 film that I've seen.
The McPherson tape.
The McPherson tape.
I got that up there. Last one. Final Destination.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
the
you got to keep
original.
that. That's a classic.
Spoiler alert. Allie Larder. Is that how you say her name? I
Yeah.
invited her on the show. She hasn't read it yet, but
All right, I
probably
gotta go.
never will. All right.